Roll.
Okay. My first question. So you are the Knox County Commissioner, correct?
Correct,
So-
from the 3rd District.
Third district. Okay.
Right.
So what is it exactly? What responsibilities do you have as?
Well, the county commission is basically the overseer of, in a board setting, of all the business of Knox County. And so we're probably best known as the fiscal agent. I mean, in terms of budget, Knox County's budget has to be approved by the county commission. So that's fundamentally what we are. We're equivalent on the city side to the city council. So county commission, it's just county is a much bigger entity than the city is.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, you spent a lot of years teaching and coaching, correct?
Yeah.
What led you from teaching and coaching to a job with the Knox County?
That's an interesting question for me because in the teaching aspect, I was primarily involved in the life sciences, and then sort of ended up with a course called Ecology and Environmental Science, and so I've kind of always had this environmental slant to everything that I did in the classroom. And there was I don't know, as you end your teaching career, I mean, I could feel, after you've been in the classroom, like I have 30 years, I could feel, it's just time. You've done it. You start to wear down. You can imagine being in high school for 30 years. That's amazing. I think about it. I think back about it. But I certainly had a desire to have an effect. And I hope I did on students. And then, there's sort of somewhat of the same theme that I had that I tried to influence students with in the classroom. I think there was some attraction. I was recruited to go into the political realm, and that's an interesting story too. But the recruitment process was probably attractive because it offered me an opportunity to do what I did in a high school setting on a bigger scale and have influence, I hope, on a bigger scale.
You switch interviewers there, and I'll
Thank you.
volunteer.
Thank you.
Volunteer. Hey, David.
I read that you're very passionate about the outdoors and the conservation and well-being of like Smoky Mountain area, and that you've, as you were saying before, you kind of drew a lot of your positions on issues from when you taught and everything. What are some of the main issues that are threatening the Smoky Mountain National Park in that area of the region?
Well, just in terms of the park, there's the common ones would probably be, there's air pollution issues. There's and those cascade down into other issues like water and fish and invasive species that sort of encroach on the mountains. And so, yeah, I'm just a native, I'm a Knoxville boy, born and raised, and probably have a heritage that goes. I know I've got a great-grandfather that had a place in the Sugarlands area. Some of you are probably familiar with the Sugarlands Visitor Center. And so, I don't know, the mountains are just part of my DNA, so that's why.
Being an avid outdoorsman myself, what can me and other outdoorsmen do to help protect that part of the region from becoming too polluted or littered or?
Well, there's this thing that I think that I hope that schools, and what I tried to do in the schools was promote what was called a land ethic, and that's just basically instilling in kids how valuable and important it is to understand what the land, and when I say land, that represents that represents the water, the air, the animals that reside, the ecology of the area. And so, to me, it's hugely important for children and students to have that, what we would call this, this valuing of this system, that it's not just, business is important and the economy is important, but also there is this this component of the economy which includes a land, values of the land. So that's what I try. I'm still trying to get across.
Let me switch interviewers now and put the mission with you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to get a lot of interviewers through the process here.
Doesn't seem like it's very random, but I won't get you on that one.
Okay, all right.
Lauren Evans.
Think of it
Hey,
as
Lauren, nice
selective
to meet you.
victimization then.
Go ahead.
All right. As District 3 Commissioner, what do you feel is the biggest issue that district is facing, and what types of plans do you have for solving any problems that you're facing right now?
Well, it's probably, my district is a really varied place in terms of economy, I guess economics. Mostly residential. It's mostly residential, but it kind of, like the geography of it, if you're familiar with Knoxville, is it goes down Middlebrook Pike and it's kind of north of Middlebrook Pike all the way to Cedar Bluff. And then it comes across through Carnes, and there's kind of a line at Ball Road, this road called Ball Road, and it comes in at Clinton Highway. So this area, there's a mix, but it's primarily residential. So probably the big things are issues related to neighborhoods and safety, transportation issues. The conditions of roads, and so those are probably the big things from the district. And I don't know. And Dr. Harmon was in the seat too, and I don't think district wide very much. I guess I'm not very good at that part of it. But I just sort of consider my issues tend to be county-wide issues mostly. And that's partly because half of my district is in the city and half of it's in the county. So I don't know. I don't get hung up on a lot. I take up some. If you live in my district and you call me about an issue, I take it up. But there's not a lot of issues that like are big items that are continually like on the screen. It's more kind of mundane things like, are we getting normal services, police, fire, roads, things like that. It's kind of mundane. So that's, from a district standpoint, those are issues.
Okay.
Kind of dull.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in your second term, or?
This is my start of my second term.
And since you've been on the board or been part of the commission, what types of changes have you seen as far as your environmental concerns go? Have you seen a positive change, or is there still a lot of work to be done?
Well, we're right in the middle. We're in the middle stages of this hillside protection, ridgetop hillside protection plan, or maybe, well, it just depends on how you look at it. We've been at it for 3 years. It's going before the legislative bodies. If it gets passed, then it jumps over the wall to the city and county, and then they will be asked to produce regulations that go into what we call the code. And so we're in this process, and we're kind of at a critical juncture in the process. But it could go on. The hillside issue could go on for quite a while. But it's real. Like this month is a big month for the legislative stuff.
Switching interviewers.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I read that you attended University of Tennessee.
Sure
or you
did.
showed up, lost me, so
Undergrad and grad.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Is there any experience here at the university that like really made you want to be a Knox County Commissioner, or that made you like see yourself in the future?
Oh, I had no idea what the heck was going on when I was an undergrad, for sure. I think the school, the thing that UT does that lends itself to my experience, though, was the breadth of it. And being at a large school, you get exposed to a lot of different people, a lot of different ideas, and exciting teachers. And so from that standpoint, I think it was a very good experience. And then I sent a son here to UT too. So a lot of good things about UT.
And being a Knox County Commissioner and being a teacher before that, are there like any similarities or differences, or is one harder than the other? Do you prefer one? Or, like, if you could go back to teaching, would you rather do that, do you think? Or?
I wouldn't go back to teaching high school for 1 second. So it's just a different dimension, and that's mainly, and I hate to say, I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. I mean, I had wonderful students, but I just wore out. You know, I was kind of at a school that had this West High School, which had, you know, just the best kids that you could imagine, and then you had some like, dude, you're one step out of the penitentiary, and so it was just dealing with kids that were really, really tough that kind of got me. But this is exciting. It is exciting. I've never had a boring moment doing the commission stuff because it's new. It's another, you know, it's just a different dimension of what I'd like to do. Yeah.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask, does someone have a specific follow-up to something you've heard already in the interview? You do? All right. You're volunteering. I was worried we were getting a little disjointed there. Something interesting would come up and it would disappear.
That's what you do.
So follow-up questions. Take one.
So you've been working on the Hillside and Ridgetop Protection Plan for 3 years, and what all has gone into this work, and what's the process for actually passing the plan and getting it into action?
Okay, when it started, it's sort of, the start of it was there was a water tower that went up in South Knoxville, and I don't know whether y'all can probably see it from campus right here. Anyway, that was kind of the spark of the issue. You know, I had always been concerned with water quality issues, being kind of a creek and stream guy, and that's what I did in my classrooms, in my class activity. I tried to get kids, that's how I sold them on the concept of valuing the land, get them into, you know, get them outside, get them in the, you know, dealing with water quality issues, fish, bugs, you know, the aquatic insect community, you know, the whole range of issues in a stream. And then the process, so that idea suddenly presented itself in a political realm when that issue exploded, and it was just headlines. And I called up a guy from South Knoxville, City Councilman Joe Holquist, and I said, "What do you think? You know, you think we can make some headway, you know, for Knox County in terms of water issues, because we really have been negligent in terms of the way we do things. That our land use practices have been negligent in a lot of people's estimation, a lot of damage done. So we need to, could we do something? Do you think we could do something?" Well, then he said, "Yeah, we need to get it, you know, see if we can get something started. We'll go to the legislative bodies and see if they're in agreement. If they are, we could start a task force." That's what we did. We recruited people, started the task force. 3 years later, that's where we are right now. And so the plan has been written. It's some 80 pages with the cooperation of the Metropolitan Planning Commission. The plan, this land use plan, which is in regards to steep slopes and ridge tops, is ready, and it will go shortly if we don't get beat about the head and chest too much before commission in February. and possibly sometime in February before the city council.
Awesome.
So
And
that's
what's
where it is.
if/when that becomes in effect, what's going to be the step one of executing that plan in Knoxville?
Okay, so the plan would go into effect, and it would be guidelines for land use decisions from that point on. Now, it wouldn't have the strength of law in terms of code, like what it would do if you wanted to, say you had a plot of land on a hillside and you wanted to develop it. If the plan goes into effect, then your planning process, when you wanted to go and get your land ready to be developed, you would have to go to MPC, the Metropolitan Planning Commission. They would now use this plan and say, these are the guidelines for development that you need to go by now. And so it would start to work. It wouldn't quite have probably the full impact until it went into what we call code later. But it would start to influence practice. It's already doing it, I think, somewhat, but it wouldn't quite have its force as it will later. Okay?
Switch interviewers. Let's see, I've heard from this young woman here, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Brooke.
Hey,
Nice to
Brooke,
meet you.
Tony.
Alright, so my first question for you, you've had a lot of accomplishments throughout your life, and do you think that you would ever consider running for like a higher political position with everything you've accomplished as commissioner?
I don't know. I've got 3 more years, and probably there's two fronts to my war in county commission. One front is this environmental front, and sort of water and hills and stuff. And there's another one that's sort of related to education. And so I don't know about higher office. I don't have any aspirations really for anything higher. Can you go higher than county commission? I don't know. It's pretty high. I don't feel like that's a joke. But yeah, I guess you could go inside. You could start thinking at the state level. We definitely, when I think about state legislators, I go, oh, we need some people to step up there for sure. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any aspirations, but you do. Sometimes you just got to step up and step in there when there's a need, and doggone it, there is a need in some places. So anyway.
Okay,
Okay.
what do you think has been your biggest accomplishment as county commissioner so far?
Well, the biggest effort's just the hillside stuff I've been talking about. So there's nothing accomplished yet. So that's, yeah. I mean, there's some other much smaller things that I think I'm very proud of just county government in general and what we've gone through since 2006 to the present, because when Mark and I we went through a very rough period, and I think the government, our county government, the integrity and the character of people that are in government right now are considerably different and better than it has been. So I'm proud of being part of that.
Okay, and you've also won a lot of different awards, everything from coaching awards to teaching awards to environmental awards. And which one of those do you think are you most proud of? Was the biggest honor for you?
My son winning the state high school tennis championship. I don't know. It's nice to win the Environmental Teacher of the Year award and stuff like that. I don't know, awards and acknowledgments of things like that. I always think about teachers, and I'm probably warped in a lot. I know I'm warped in a lot of different ways. And one was I always kind of got a little queasy over Teacher of the Year and Teacher of the Millennium and Teacher of this and that. Teachers just have such a hard time, and these awards need to be spread. There needs to be department and kind of individual awards, I think, are not good. I don't like them.
Let me break in here. There are a couple thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
There were a couple questions that I thought follow-ups were needed on. Are you planning on a follow-up?
It's kind of, it fits in with like the environmental.
Okay, we'll just, from your seats now, I'll just sit in the chair. From your seat.
I just want to know, kind of, I know it's a very complex issue, but what was like your main problem with the Midway Business Park that was voted down last December?
Okay, Midway Road exit is, if you've been to East Knoxville, it's a very rural area, although it's got some, I don't know how the plan, there's these things called growth boundaries and sector plans and so on. But anyway, when you go into East Knox County, it's just one of these places that's just still pastoral and rural. And so my fundamental problem with Midway was I just thought it lacked imagination. It's a cookie cutter business park. I mean, how, pardon the phrase, frappin' dull can you be? Okay? There's a lot of business parks, and we've got clustered stuff all over Knox County. It gives me a headache to drive and look and think about these exits and how unplanned a lot of them are. And so when I thought about, that was it for Midway. I'm just kind of like, okay, we've got to have economic development. Interstates and interstate access is important to development, but do we have to do it with a business park when we've got all these business parks that are just, most of them are empty, or large percentages of them are empty. So that was it, really.
Anyone else from the seat question? Yes.
We talked a little bit about guidelines for the Hilltop Protection Plan. Have they been detailed out already, or are you guys still deciding on what exactly guidelines for building there are?
No, the guidelines are pretty much written. Our last process, we made some modifications the last month to accommodate on certain slopes, percentages of slope, a little bit increased residential densities and some allowances for some commercial that, with restrictions about how you do it, and if you cut into the hillside, you have to restore it. You can't just chop it off and let it fall down and around everybody else and into the streams and stuff. So for the most part, I'd say 99% of the guidelines are written. We still have a little bit of work. There's some fussing from the Home Builders Association right now that we hear what they're saying. We're trying to take some of those things in and say, okay, now what are the things that you're saying here? We've got some miscommunication that's going on. I think that's mostly the problem with them, and we're trying to reach some common ground. So there might be a little tweaking that goes on based on meetings with home builders. They're sore right now, real sore, just because of the economy,
Have there been any other opposition to the production plan?
The opposition has mainly been by what I'd call the developer interest, the sort of the I gotta watch out what I say here. It's on YouTube. Sleazy developer interest, and some of them are a little on the sleazy side. We have some great developers, very environmentally conscious developers in Knox County, but there's some that just take a bulldozer up, scrape the hill, slam in a bunch of relatively cheap stuff, and run out with the money out the back door. So. Maximizing profit without any concern whatsoever. So some of those guys are in opposition. They don't like you telling them what to do or how to do it.
I heard something I wanted to do a follow-up on myself.
Oh, no.
You were recruited, he said. Who recruited you to run for county commission? It's the first I heard of this.
You don't want me to get into that.
No, don't I? No?
Well, the bad guy of bad guys in Knox County politics, I was recruited. My father was a commissioner 20 years ago. All right, let me extend the story a little bit. When I was teaching, my father, as he faded and died, when he was out of politics, some of the people that supported him started to talk to me about possibly being interested in this. This was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe someday. But, I said, when my kids are grown and they're not playing ball anymore and stuff, almost to the day that my youngest son, he played in minor league baseball. He was a good baseball player, and he played minor league baseball, and he was in the Royals organization for a couple of years, and he didn't make it, to the bigs and stuff. But we'd chase him around, and go to the spring practice, all that stuff. And so almost to the day that he quit, that I got the phone call. Hey, what do you think about running for county commission? And it was mainly it was Tim Hutchison's crowd. I didn't know, for you that don't know Knox County politics, Tim Hutchison is he was one of the most powerful figures in county politics in the last probably 15, 20 years. He was sheriff for 20 years-ish. And so he was recruiting me. I didn't know, what was going on. But it became very apparent really quickly when Mark and I wait, you weren't on there then. Were you on there at Black Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were on
We
there.
joined at the same
That's
time.
right. So there was this thing called Black Wednesday. And there's this moment in time, where you go, uh-oh, now I see, this naive guy, school teacher, I see what's going on. Yeah, I see. I see how this is being played.
Then this naive guy who nobody recruited said, he's not really the sheriff's guy. He's nobody's guy. I can talk to him. And we became friends.
Yeah.
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 Actually became friends when you gave me a lift one time when my ride walked away. I appreciate that, Tony. Any other questions for Tony Norman? Because I know we've got to get him to his car before the
tickets. I can't take
ticket
that.
people can't
Take
take
that.
it. Any other questions at all? Very quickly. I cannot let this crowd not know about the ridge and slope action that led to a clash with Lumpy. Can you explain very briefly what happened there, how he ended up getting censured because of something that happened at one of your meetings?
Well, in the process of doing the Hillside plan, we took the plan to communities all over the county. So we had 9 public meetings. Well, there's a guy on the commission named Greg Lumpy Lambert, and Greg and I, we just never hit it off. I mean, it was just one of those things, and he is the most unique guy I've ever seen. Anyway, so we had to go to his community for a meeting, and so in the Carnes, if you're familiar, there's a little community building that's probably not much bigger than this room that they had the meeting in, and it was packed with people, and we started the meeting, and Lumpy, he had a buddy that was next to him, and I was kind of close to him. I'm up just saying, this is what we're going to do, and this is sort of this is our agenda, this is how we're doing it. Well, he just leans over and he goes, I'm taking control of this meeting right now. Well, there was, he jumped up, and just there was Lumpy thought that the people there were in support of his position. Well, it turned out they weren't. They were in support of the Hillside and things there's a lot of bad stuff, a lot of bad development that went on out in Carnes, and landslides and stuff and so on. So anyway, there was just a riot. People shouting awful things to Lumpy about various aspects of his body and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, it was a riot. I mean, there were 60 people in a room this size that were shouting ugly things at him. Shut up, sit down, you fat and so finally he did, we just kept going, look, we're going to have to end the meeting, you don't sit down, He finally sits down, we end up going through the meeting. And then, of course, I reported this. I thought this was such an egregious example of a public official that I reported it to the commission, and the commission agreed. This is not the way we need to be behaving in public, and the censure then took place.
All right. Couldn't not give you guys that story. Anything else before I gotta get into his car? Anything else? Tony?
Hey.
Pleasure. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you.
Always. Good. Keep up the good work on commission.